Alright. Um, Hawaiian shirt already there, and so for this video, I'm not gonna do an RL. Gonna read the sci-fi that I found on Reddit. I ran to some. I ran to some copyright problems for commenting on some Champions League game. It was Real Madrid versus Stuttgart, and I realized copyrights are a thing, and they're taken serious, and they should be taken serious. But in some corner of the internet, there are some things like Project Gutenberg. So hopefully we're gonna go over these. Right now we're gonna do minimum editing, minimum everything, till I can maybe help my accent, I can make my accent better, improve my accent, and also not record these at 3:30 in the morning. That's another big thing. And also maybe, I don't know, maybe the ones we record in the morning. Okay, so change of clothing too. The ones at night are gonna have Hawaiian shirts. The one in the morning are gonna be white collar shirts. And that's it for that. Okay, maybe I need to bring this closer because I can't read very loud. Insidekick by Jesse F. Bone. Alright. So, get rid of that. Oh, 1 sec. Yeah, that's good enough. Too bright. Ouch. Oh, this absolutely needs knifing. It's knifing. What happened? Safari extensions. Night. Dark theme. Not night. Dark theme. That's unnecessary. Okay, get rid of the Safari too. Anyone with a good rating? Jeez. Can you see my downloads? I used to have now. Dark mode. What did I search? Dark theme. I'm not sleeping enough. Open. Yeah, you know what? Okay, so okay. So what do I do now? Here we go. Yeah, I don't know if someone's gonna like that. General terms of use. By reading or using part of them, you indicate a real understanding free. So the terms of license and intellectual property. If you do not like it about um charger is a fee for copies. Do not charge fee for access. I comply with everything. Yes, I do. Cross in my heart. Alright. Shit, I can't make this bigger. First of all, we have this cool cover. We're judging the short story by its cover. And honestly, I shouldn't talk this much and get to reading, but yeah, you see, it's like they're assembling a robot, and the robot is doing things inside the other robot, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Alright. Alright. I should start reading Insidekick. Let's see what this guy is first. Let me start. He's a veterinarian. He has a Hugo Award. So he's a doctor, like Asimov. He's the American Asimov. Alright. Shifa's glanced furtively around the room, satisfied that it was empty except for Fred Kemmer and himself. He sidled up to the Earthman's desk and hissed conspiratorially in his ear, "Sir, this Johnson is a spy. Is it permitted to slay him?" "It is permitted," Kimmer said in a tone suitably to the gravity of the occasion. He watched humorlessly as the Antarian slithered out of the office with a flutter of colorful ceremonial robes. Both Kemmer and Shifos had known for weeks that Johnson was a spy. Kemmer and Shifos. And Johnson, okay. But the native had to go through this insane rigmarole before the rules on Antar would allow him to act. I need to get some water. Fuck. Oh, excuse me for cursing. Shout out to Montreal for these cups. These are nice ceramics. Yeah. Alright. At any rate, the formalities were over at last, and the affair should be satisfactorily ended before nightfall. Natives moved quickly enough once the preliminaries were concluded. Cameron leaned back in his chair and sighed. Being the Interworld Corporation's local manager had more... Jesus. Alright. Cameron leaned back in his chair and sighed. Being the Interval Corporation's local manager had more compensations than headaches. Despite the rigid ritualism of native society, since most of the local population was under his thumb, counter-espionage was miraculously effective. This fellow Johnson, for instance, had been in Vaornia less than 3 weeks, and despite the fact that he was an efficient and effective snoop, he had been fingered less than 48 hours. After his arrival in the city, Cameron closed his eyes and let a smile cross his keen features. Under his administration, there will be a sharp rise in the morality care for spies detected in the Vaornia Lagash Timar Triangle, with the native judiciary firmly under icy control. The corporation literally had a free hand, providing it kept its nose superficially clean. And as for spies, they knew the chances they took and what the penalty could be for interfering with the normal operations of corporate business. Kemer yawned, stretched, turned his attention to more important matters. Albert Johnson fumbled hopefully in the empty food container before tossing it aside. A plump, prosaic man. Who's that? Why did that turn black? Oh. Albert Johnson fumbled. Albert Johnson fumbled hopefully in the empty food container before tossing it aside. A plump, prosaic man of middle height with a round, ingenuous face. Albert was as distinguished as his name, a fact that made him an excellent investigator, but he was neither undistinguished nor unnoticed in his present position. Although he had tried to carry it off by photographing the actions of the local sanitary professional like any tourist, he had been waiting near the Vaornia Arm on the road that led to Lagash since early afternoon, and now it was nearly evening. He cursed mightily at the fact that the natives had no conception of time, a trait not exclusive and Terran, but one which was developed to a high degree on this benighted planet. And the fact that he was hungry didn't add to his good temper. Natives might be able to fast for weeks without ill effects, but his chunky body demanded quantities of. He was fat. Can't say who was fat. Albert Johnson, probably. Was hungry, didn't add to his good temper. Natives might be able to fast for a week without ill effects, but his chunky body demanded quantities of nourishment at regular intervals, and his stomach was protesting audibly at being empty. He looked around him at the rotted road and at the darkening Waornia arm of the Devon forest that bordered the roadway. The sanitary processional had completed the daily ritual of waste disposal, and the cart drivers and censer bearers were goading their patient decks in a faster gait. It wasn't healthy to be too near the forest after the sun went down. The night beasts weren't particular about what or whom they ate. And I keep getting random thoughts. Oh, such genius. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm gonna put it here so it's gonna be secret right now. Alright. Back to reading. Okay. The Waornis used the Waornia arm as a dump for the refuse of the city. A purpose admirably play apt, for the ever-hungry forest life seldom left anything uneaten by morning. And since Antarian towns had elaborate rituals concerning the disposal of waste, together with a non-existent sewage system, the native attitude of fatalistic indifference to an occasional tourist or Antarian being gobbled up by some nightmare denizen of the forest was understandable. The fact that the arm was also an excellent place to dispose of an inconvenient body did not occur to Albert until the three natives with knives detached themselves from the rear of the sanitary processional and advanced upon him. They came from three directions, effectively boxing him in, and Albert realized with a sick certainty that he had been double-crossed, that Shafiz, instead of being an informant for him, was working for the IC. Albert turned to face the nearest native, tensing his muscles for battle. Then he saw the Zork. It stepped out of the gathering darkness of the forest, and with its appearance everything stopped for perhaps a microsecond. Okay. Note for future videos. I have to read practicing we're gonna practicing notes so I can effing read. Yeah, my bad. This is gonna be a very low quality. This is already a very low quality video, but doing this for fun. So what can you do? It's free. You guys can't complain. Anyways, it stepped out of the gathering darkness of the forest, and with its appearance everything stopped. Perhaps a microsecond, the three Waornis stood frozen. Then, with a simultaneous whip of terror, they turned and ran for the city. They might have stayed and finished their work if they had known it was Zark. At the moment, the Zark was energizing a toothy heart that Earthmen called a bandersnatch, an insane combination of talons, teeth, snake-like neck mounted on a crocodilian body, these are the pictures. Believe it or not, these are not AI generated. Somebody actually drew these. Shout out to that guy. And same combination of talons, teeth, and snake-like neck mounted on a crocodilian body that exuded an odor of putrefaction from the carrion upon which it normally fed. The Bandersnatch had been dead for several hours, but either the natives nor Albert knew that. Excuse me. And same combination of talons, teeth, and snake-like neck mounted on a crocodilian body that exuded an odor of putrefaction from the carrion upon which it normally fed. The Bandersnatch had been dead for several hours, but neither the natives nor Albert knew that. It was tribute to the Zark's ability to maintain pseudo-life in a Bandersnatch carcass that the knifemen fled, and a similar panic seized the late travelers on the road. Albert started with horrified fascination at the monstrosity. I'm gonna do a series of videos on linear algebra. Algebra, that's Persian. Never forget that. Whoa. It's funny, linear algebra, it's LA. Shout out to the Persians in LA. Anyways. Oh, yes, and also ooh, this will be freaking cool. We'll see. We'll freaking see. Anyways. We were talking about Bandersnatch. We are 10:10. We will have the Tesla thing. This is honestly a stream, it's not a video. But it's gonna be, well, I don't know, we are down to 24 minutes. So we've improved from 4 seconds to 7 minutes. So genius. Okay. This is the problem with recording these videos at 3 in the morning. Not good. Not good. I'm ashamed. I should do better. Anyways, he was some 20 yards behind the rearmost native, and though not designed for speed and was actually gaining upon the fellow when his foot struck a loose cobblestone in the road, arms flailing, legs pumping, desperately to balance his toppling mass. Albert fought manfully against the forces of gravity and inertia. He lost. His head struck another upturned cobble. His body twitched once and then relaxed limply and unconscious upon the dusty road. The Tsar winced a little at the sight, certain that his curious creature had damaged itself seriously. Filled with compassion, it started forward on the bandersnatch's forward-walking legs, the grasping talons crossed on the breast in an attitude of prayer. The Zach wasn't certain what it could do, but perhaps it could help. Albert was mercifully unconscious as it bent over him to inspect his prone body with a purple pineal eye that was blue with concern. The Zark noted the bruise upon his forehead, marked his irregular breathing, and came to the correct conclusion that whatever had happened, the bite was relatively undamaged, but the Zark didn't go away. It had never seen a human in its 1,000-odd years of existence, which was not surprising since Earthmen had been on Enter less than a decade and Zarks seldom left the forest. Albert began. Okay, so I need 30 minutes of practice. Well, taking I feel like 15 minutes of preparations. Preparations is all I need. How do I mess that up? Yes. I don't know, I just tweet to the void. I have 50 followers, subscribers, I don't know. There are definitely some random bots. Hurts. Anyways, Albert chose his precise time to return to consciousness. He turned his head groggily and looked up into a double row of saw-edged teeth, surmounted by a leering triangle of eyes. A drop of viscid drool splattered moistly on his forehead, and as the awful face above him bent closer to his own, he fainted. The Zark snapped his jaws disapprovingly. This was not the proper attitude to take in the presence of a ferocious monster. One simply didn't go to sleep. Facts. Write that somewhere. Better. Curiously, the Zark sent out a pseudopod of its substance through the open mouth of its disguise. The faintly glittering. Yeah, give me this. I need to grab this. This is uncomfortable. It raced inward along the nerve trunk, split the optic charisma, and entered the corpora quad regemina, where branch into innumerable microscopic filaments that follow the main neural paths of the man's brain, probing the major areas of thought and reflex. The Tsar quivered with pleasure. The creature was beautifully complex and, more important, untainted. He would make an interesting host. The Tsar didn't hesitate. It needed a host. Given its present mass of organic matter, pseudo-life took too much energy. The bandersnatch collapsed with a faint, slurping sound. A blob of iridescent jelly flowed from the mouth and spread itself evenly over Albert's body in a thin layer. The jelly shimmered, glowed, disappearing inward through Albert's clothing and skin, diffusing through the subcutaneous tissues, sending hair-like threads along nerve trunks and blood vessels, until the threads met other threads and joined, and the Zark became a network of protoplasmic tendrils that ramified through Albert's body. Immediately, the Zark turned its attention to the task of adapting itself. I can't do that. Never mind. I have the thought of taking this out. Just hold it like this, but it's uncomfortable. I don't know. It's good enough. Policies until the threads met other threads and joined, and the Zark became a network of protoplasmic tendrils that ramified through Albert's body. Immediately, the Zark turned its attention to the task of adapting itself to its new host. Long ago, it had learned that this had to be done quickly, or the host did not survive. And since the tissues of this new host were considerably different from those of the Bandersnatch, a great number of structural and chemical changes had to be made quickly. With most dismay, the Zark realized that its own stores of energy would be insufficient for the task. It would have to borrow energy from the host, which was a poor way to start a symbiotic relationship. Ordinarily, one gave before taking. Fortunately, Albert possessed considerable excess fat, an excellent source of energy whose removal would do no harm. There was plenty here for both Albert and itself. The man's body twitched and jerked as the Tsar's protein cells passed through the adaptive process, and as the last leukocyte, this is the problem with sci-fi, recoiled from tissue that had suddenly become normal. His consciousness returned. Less than 10 minutes had passed, but they were enough. The Zark was safely in harmony with its new host. Albert opened his eyes and looked wildly around. The landscape was empty of animate life, except for the odorous carcass of the Bandersnatch lying beside him. Albert shivered, rose unsteadily to his feet, and began walking toward Vaornia. That he didn't run was only because he couldn't. He found it hard to believe that he was still alive. Yet a hurried inspection convinced him that there wasn't a tooth mark on him. It was a miracle that left him feeling vaguely uneasy. He wished he knew what had killed that grinning horse so opportunely. But then one second thought, maybe it was better that he didn't. No. Um, there might be things in the Devon forest worse than a bandersnatch. Inside the city walls, Vaornia struck a three-pronged blow at Albert's senses. Sight, hearing, and smell were assaulted simultaneously. Natives slithered past, garbed in long robes of garish color. Sibilant voices cut through the evening air like thin-edged knives, clashing against the grating screech of the ungreased wooden wheels of deck carts. Odors of smoke, cooking, spices, perfume, and corruption mingled with all-pervasive musky stench of unwashed Vaornese bodies. It was old to Albert but new and exciting to the Zark. Its taps on Albert's sense organs brought a flood of new sensation the Zark had never experienced. It marveled at the crowded buildings studded with jutting balconies and ornamental carvings. It stuttered at the dark carvings maneuvering with ponderous delicacy through the swarming crowds. It reveled in the colorful banners and awnings of the tiny shops lining the streets and the fluttering robes of the natives. Color was something new to the Zark. Its previous host had been colorblind, and the symbiont wallowed in an orgy of bright sensation. Alright. Alright. If Albert could have turned in on his fellow travelers' emotions, he probably would have laughed, for the Tsark was behaving precisely like the rubbernecking tourist he himself was pretending to be. But Albert wasn't interested in the sights, sounds, or smells, nor did the natives intrigue him. There was only one of them he cared to meet, that slimy double-crosser called Shifaz, who had nearly conned him into a one-way ticket. Albert plowed heedlessly through the crowd, using his superior mass to remove natives from his path. I guess, I don't know. I honestly don't know where the plot is going. I just have fun reading it. But completely disregarding the code of conduct outlined by the IC Travel Bureau, he managed to make respectable progress toward the enormous covered area in the center of town that housed the Kazlak, or native marketplace. Shifaz, had a stand there where he was employed as a tourist guide. The Zark, meanwhile, was not idle despite the outside interests. The majority of its structure was busily engaged in checking and cataloging the body of its host, an automatic process that didn't interfere with the purely intellectual one of enjoying the new sensations. Albert's body wasn't in too bad shape. A certain amount of repair work could have to be done, but despite the heavy padding of fat, the organs were in good working condition. I have a good startup idea. Sorta. This is why I stay up until 3. It's very good at this car. It's gonna be a mess. Never mind. All right. Very. Shh. I remember the con, man. All right. Heedlessly, he managed to make respectable progress toward the enormous covered area in the center of town that housed the Kazlak, or native marketplace. Shifos had a stand there where he was employed as a tourist guide. The Zark, meanwhile, was not idle despite the outside interest. The majority of its structure was busily engaged in checking and cataloging the body of its host, an automatic process that did not interfere with the purely intellectual one of enjoying the new sensations. Albert's body wasn't in too bad shape. A certain amount of repair work would have to be done, but despite the heavy padding of fat, the organs were in good working condition. The Zark ruminated briefly over what actions it should take as it dissolved a milligram of cholesterol out of Albert's aorta. I need to learn. It's definitely me not sleeping enough and doing these late. Yeah, sure, I sleep late, but I do these late too, so I'm just gonna jump into the bed right after this. No more videos late. No more late videos. Wait. The Zark ruminated briefly. Over what actions it should take as it dissolved a milligram of cholesterol out of and it strengthened the weak spot in the blood vessel with a few cells of its own substance until Albert's tissues could fill the gap. Its knowledge of human physiology was incomplete, but it instinctively recognized abnormality. As a result, it could help the host's physical condition, which was a distinct satisfaction. For Zark must be helpful. Shifos was at his regular stand. I literally can't feel not enough blood going to my brain. I don't know why. Shifos was at his regular stand, practicing his normal profession of guide. As Albert approached, he was in the midst of describing the attractions of the number 2 tour to a small knot of fascinated tourists, and then in the center of the Kazlak, he will come to the Hall of the Brides, enters the greatest marriage market. It has been arranged for you to actually see a mating auction in progress, but he must hurry or Shifos looked up to see Albert's shouldering the tourist aside. His yellow eyes widened and his hand darted to his girdle and came up with a knife. The nearest tourist fell back in alarm as he hissed malevolently at Albert, "Stand back, air friend, or I'll let the life out of your scaleless carcass." "Double crosser," Albert said, moving in. One meaty hand closed over the knife hand and wrenched while the other cut Shifos alongside the head with a smack that sounded loud in the sudden quiet. Shifos did a neat backflip and lay prostrate, the tip of his tail twitching reflex. Is there surgery? Someone's fixing someone else. This is someone's aorta. One of the tourists screamed. "No shoot today, folks," Albert said. "Shifos has another engagement." He picked the Antarian up by a fold of his robe and shook him like a dirty dust cloth. A number of items cascaded out of hidden pockets, among which was an oiled silk pouch. Albert dropped the native and picked up the pouch, opened it, sniffed, and nodded. It fitted. Things were clearer now. He was still nodding when two airmen in IC uniforms stepped out of the crowd. "Sorry, sir," the bigger of the pair said, "but you have just committed a violation of the IC anti-compact. I'm afraid we'll have to take you in. This lizard tried to have me killed." Albert protested. "I didn't know about that," the IC man said. "You've assaulted a native, and that's a crime. You better come peaceably with us. Local justice is rather primitive and unpleasant." "I'm an air citizen," Albert began. "This word is on a commercial treaty." The guard produced a blackjack. This is why I love sci-fi. And tapped the shot-filled leather in his palm. "It's our business to protect people like you from the natives, and if you insist, we'll use force." "I didn't insist, but I think you're being pretty high-handed." "Your objection has been noted," the IC man said, "and will be included in the official report. Now come along, or we'll be in the middle of a jurisdiction hassle when the native cops arrive. The corporation doesn't like hassles. They are bad for business." The two IC men herded him into a waiting ground and drove away. It was all done very smoothly, quietly, and affectionately. The guards were good, and so was the local detention room. It was clean, modern, and Albert noted wryly, virtually escape-proof. Albert was something of an expert on gels and the thick steel bars, the force-like and the spy cell in the ceiling won his grudging respect. He sighed and sat down on the cot, which was the room's sole article for furniture. He had been a fool to let his anger get better of him. Icy would probably use this brush with Shifas Am I tripping or? I feel like my night. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna cut this video right now. My brain is twitching. There's nothing here. Yep. I'm gonna do a very better job next video, but I'm gonna upload this anyway, so we will never forget this, and we learned from it. Thank you for watching.